close your eyes for a moment. She. That's kind of a privilege, you know. Just really 만져달라고. 얘가 애가 많아요. Okay, lesson 39, 40, so to speak. Let's start with possible questions, if there are. It's the last class today, so if there are any questions. Yes, Candice.
I actually listened to one of the audio again, and he was talking about self-deprecating humor. Self-deprecating humor.
Can you take off your mask?
Self-deprecating humor.
I don't.
Self-deprecating humor.
Oh, self-deprecating humor. Yeah, sorry. I'm a little bit deaf.
Nice. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, is it something really good? Like, what does it actually mean when you use this sort of humor?
Yeah, but very good question. There is always a good and a bad. Self-deprecating humor is bad if it's self-destructive, meaning that you have no self-respect. But humor in itself is not bad. And if you're capable of making jokes about yourself, because nobody's perfect, so if you can smile with your own imperfections, even joke about it, that's spiritual. That elevates energy. So
that doesn't show sort of like insecurity, you know, because I think that's
no, it's the same as making jokes about other people. You can make jokes about other people and have a good laugh, but you feel when it is malicious. Then it's not good anymore. Then it's mean. So it can be good, it can be bad. But humor in itself is freeing up energy. It releases tension. Good question, thank you. But self-deprecating humor means the ability to put yourself into perspective. The ability to not take oneself too much serious. When we take ourselves very serious, our energy blocks. And it is in that tension that things go wrong. Because people feel your energy is blocked. Of course, they will not say, hey, your energy is blocked, but they feel the tension and their reaction will be in return. one of tension or negative approach. So, you know, the world is our playground. That's what Patanjali said. And which means try it out. And most importantly, how does it feel when you try? Because that is where you learn and grow. Try, you know, in the beginning period that I started practicing yoga, the TV for me was a poison. It sucked out my energy. So I got rid of my TV. And instead, I spent my evenings very quietly, reading and writing, and then practicing yoga before going to sleep. I have a TV, very big one. But I use the TV. Well, Netflix is a blessing, I have to say. Because now you can choose what you really want to watch. And that is, yeah, it's maybe un-yogi-like to say, but I really enjoy to just choose what I want to watch and then just watch. I don't binge watch, I watch 1 or 2 hours at the end of the day, and that's it. It's just kind of relaxation. But I watch the news, and I am interested in what's happening around the world, because everything is connected, and I want to feel what is going on and try to make something out of it, concrete, some sense out of it. But more importantly, or more interestingly, I like to observe people, feel people. I stick out my antennas and try to connect with the essence. What is it that they really intend to do or say? Just see all the lies and deceit. And I find it, based on my observations, I find it shocking that the people we choose to represent ourselves do not care to represent ourselves. Some of them do, and you can feel the integrity. But the majority actually only cares about their own interest. And the decisions they don't make for you, they make for themselves and their own interest, their own future, political future. So I find that very shocking, kind of. But I use the watching those kind of things as a sounding board to just, you know, understand human nature, and also to realize how not to live life. I think if you want to live a happy life, integrity goes a long way. It's not the easy way, actually, on the contrary. The easy way in life is to just bend with wherever the wind blows. Just go along. But in the end, that's not getting you anywhere. And when you look in the mirror, and you just almost have to vomit because of all the corruption, compromises that you engage in just to make life easier, I could not live like that. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't live like that. And I think as yogis, because you become not only more sensitive, but more connected with the self, I think this applies to all of us. To live like that, initially, may seem to be hard. You will bump into many obstacles, many challenges. But then after a while you start to see that there is a purpose to all that. When we choose the difficult path, we end up in the fork in the road, and instead of choosing the easy way out, we do not avoid challenges. we start to notice that instead of challenges being something to avoid it, we start to appreciate challenges because we start to see that it's again and again, it's the exam of life. Every time we deal with challenges, it's like a test. And while we are still inexperienced, we very much think in terms of success and failure. But then later, looking back, we see that what we thought, what we perceived as failure, actually turned into something good, led to something good. And the more you see those developments taking place, the more you appreciate having chosen the path of the challenges and the obstacles. You wouldn't want different anymore. Life has no meaning if we just choose the easy way out every time. Life is our playground. And Patanjali says it's our playground that leads us to liberation. The highest goals in yoga are achieved not by isolating ourselves in a monastery, but by living daily life consciously. Consciously. The emphasis on the word conscious. That everything we do, everything we say, every interaction in life, it's connected. It's caused by something and it will lead to something. A connection that most people cannot see. As yogis, we become more and more interested in those connections. We want to know why something happened, why we did something or we said something. You become more and more, you become like a detective. You always investigate, naturally. It's not something that you say, please close the door. It's not something that you say, I'm going to sit down and investigate. Please close the door.
Approach your dogs. I don't want to alarm them. Sorry, Ron, I didn't want to put my in close.
Do you have a mat?
The door is okay. I can use the floor.
This one doesn't have a tag. So, yeah. I sometimes jokingly say that as a yogi, life becomes boring. But life itself is not boring. On the surface, it may seem boring. Because you're not interested anymore in the things of the past. Going out, seeking adventure and excitement. Because life on a daily basis is enough. I think before yoga, many people are wondering. We live a life based on our upbringing, our culture. We live a life based on what we are supposed to do. The government directs us, our education directs us, our parents direct us. But before yoga, many people, they're kind of satisfied with life as it is based on the material aspects of it, achievements. But then many people experience kind of a hole in their heart. What is life really about? And I've been a very restless soul. Because of past experiences, we call it karma. And I canalized that through yoga and the practice of Hapkido. And it led me to come to Korea, which also created upheaval in a way, but there was a pattern of evolution. There was a pattern of getting where I wanted to be. So it was not an endless process or an endless path. There was a purpose to it. And maybe a little bit difficult story, but we all have our own luggage, our own package of karma, and it is that karma that causes our actions. It may not be easy to see yet, but before we connect with our heart, with our heart's content, we kind of run around in circles. The karma, the restlessness of the past, causes us, because we do not see it, we do not understand it, we keep running around in circles. And if the karma is too big or very big, it leads to self-destruction. For many people whose karma is not too big, but just, a suitcase full, it leads to a life of being busy without actually really going anywhere. In a material sense, maybe, yes. Maybe you have a good education leading to a good income, job, career. So we develop, we can buy a house, we can maybe upgrade to a nicer car. But inside, that hole remains. We keep running around in circles. Most people who start practicing yoga more and more connect with the self, and then you keep running around in circles, but little by little you make loops outside of the circle. And you go more and more outside the circle. And it starts to take shape into a certain direction. When I look back, 35, 60, 45 years, 50 years, as a child, already, I had a vision of where I wanted to go with my life. It's not a clear picture, it's a feeling. And I have a feeling it's manifesting. That is where you go. And when you start to get that feeling, adventures, excitement, all those kind of things that in the past were important, become distractions. Distraction from what? From that connection. Life is very complex, It may seem that the world has evolved. There are many rich countries around the world. Korea has become one of those. There are so many, what do you call it? Benefits, amenities, so many things we can enjoy. But 200 years ago, rich countries maybe didn't exist or were much more rare. than now. 200 years ago or 500 years ago, life was very simple. All you needed was to have something to eat and a place for shelter, a roof over your head. That was the only concern people had. Of course, it's not that simple, but life, we have 3 meals. We don't even question anymore where it comes from or whether we will have a meal. It's just there. We have a roof over our head, which is not influenced by rain or wind or cold or heat. So we started focusing on all kinds of superficial things, not non-essential things. This is just a natural. Energy always wants to manifest. And if there's energy, because there is spare energy because we don't have to focus on the necessities of basic life, survival. So we start looking elsewhere. And the whole economy is built on that. Every dollar that you earn, within a half year or so, brings $1 into the coffers of the tax office. Every time you spend it, money is, I don't know how much tax you pay in the US, but in the Netherlands you pay 20% tax every time you spend money. So €1 has to be changed hands only 5 times for that whole amount to go into the tax coffers of the government. Have you ever thought about that? So life is how did we get here? I don't want to get here. The government tries to make you believe that you're free and wealthy and comfortable, but in the end you're a milk cow. So what I'm trying to say is, as a yogi, being connected with the self, you're still part of the system, but a little bit standing outside of it. I always bring my own tea and coffee, if I bring coffee. And my own, when we had a class starting in the morning and ending around 4, I would bring lunch, I bring everything myself. I don't feel attracted to getting it from a shop or something. It's just natural. I don't resist it's just natural. I prefer to prepare it myself. But the government wants you to spend. When I came to Korea 24 years ago, Korea was very much developing still and very much export oriented. So they didn't have a consumer society yet at that time. So supermarkets were very limited in their assortment. The convenience stores, very limited in what you could get because people didn't spend. But then the government decided we cannot survive like this. We have to switch from an export-oriented society to a consumer society. So they started importing all kinds of things that they make people believe that they should buy that. And so now we spend a lot of money. We earn more money just to spend it. So America is a good example. I think most of the money, I think more than 60%, is based on consumerism, consumer spending. Not export, not production, not fabrication, but really just people spending money. And ironically or cynically, many of the things that we can consume kill us. Is processed, is full of chemicals and what have you. You naturally move away from that. You remember the concept of raga? Raga is an identification the marketing industry creates a sense of belonging. That is the power of strong brands. McDonald's, Starbucks. We're going to get some coffee and tea from Starbucks. But that is the appeal. Raga. So ancient yogis, long before marketing existed, they understood the concept already. How strongly it affects people's decision making. Emotions. It's emotion based. Raga. It may all sound very complicated, because you think, oh my God, where am I going to start? How am I going to do all this? It sounds interesting, appealing. It's very simple. You already started. Before you came to this yoga course, there has already been change taking place. Otherwise, you would never have felt attracted to this course. People who feel attracted to this particular kind of yoga, they feel that it connects with the path they are already on and will help them further on that path. So don't worry about how to do it and where to start. It's already started. You already started. And the best way to go forward is just be yourself. Just be yourself, whatever that is. I don't know if I've told you this story, but as a teenager, I was stuck. Very dark, lost. That started when my parents divorced, which coincided with several other issues that for a 12-year-old boy was not possible to comprehend. So it really hurt me, distracted me. It changed my personality. Close the door, please. So when I decided that I did not want to continue being like that, I asked myself the question, how do I end this? I was about 15 years old, I think, when I started to see that there must be a way out. It started with the question, how do I end this? And the answer was, no, I asked myself, what do I want? I'm so unhappy. What do I want? The answer to that is, of course, I just want to be happy. I don't want to be rich. I don't want to be a pilot. I don't want to be... No, I just wanted to be happy. That was the answer to that question. What do you want? How do you do that? The answer was refreshingly simple. I just wanted to be happy, and I came to the conclusion the only way to do that was just by being myself again. Because I remembered when I was a child, I was just happy-go-lucky. Just spontaneous, naive, innocent. Well, not so innocent, but like a child. And the things that happened when I was around 12 years old, that is where I lost all that. I lost myself. And the conclusion was, if I ever want to be happy again, I just need to be myself again, like I was as a child. And ever since then, that is what I have pursued. And it has led me to, on the path of yoga, it has led me to be able also to give you all those deep insights. So that is the recipe. The recipe for life basically is to just be yourself. Whatever that is. In the beginning, that's easier said than done, because what we think of ourselves is dictated by our environment, where we are born and grow up, our culture, our education. But the media has such a huge influence on what we think we are. It creates an illusion. So it starts with little steps. I started to investigate what I feel and to allow that, instead of trying to deny it or oppress it. And from there forward, I came across yoga. It attracted me. So I got a book and I started practicing. And that led to developments where I felt I am very shy, and I was, because of those teenage experiences, very lacking confidence, self-esteem. So I felt naturally attracted to starting to practice martial arts. Not aggressive ones, but the traditional ones. It was not about fighting, it was about discipline. And that there is a word for this, some resonance. My life is based on resonance. In my mind, I can say, I want this, I want that. To my frustration, it never goes like that. I come across something, feel strongly attracted, not just a little bit, but strongly, unavoidably, and I know that that is meant for me. And that is how I came to Korea. Korea, before 9 years it took me to prepare. The people who know me from that time, they think I was obsessed by the idea to go to Korea, and I was. So whatever I want, it doesn't matter, because the heart decides. And that's with Pata and Bobby also. I was determined not to have a dog anymore, but there he is. And the intensity of that feeling gave me sleepless nights. So that means you have to follow up on it. That is where you go when you more and more try to just be yourself in life. You base your life not on how you are conditioned to live, to act, to react, to work towards your future. You follow your feeling. And it may sound very unscientific, but it is very powerful. Especially in light of everything that we learn in yoga. As yogis, it will take time, but that is the only way eventually for all of you, all of us, to go. But it takes time. Remember the forest. There's just a sea of green. And over the years, you clear the forest of all the brush, the smaller trees, and in the end, only some huge sequoias are standing tall. That is your karma. That is what you will work with. And all the rest is superficial, is just a distraction. Tell me.
Ron, I noticed that your star sign is you're a Pisces.
Yes.
So I'm a Pisces too. And also some of the stuff that you say, you know, feelings, you being a yogi, I just feel like to you it almost comes like naturally, because Pisces people tend to be very spiritually, very emotionally
unstable.
Yeah. So when I listen to you sometimes talk, I feel like it's much easier for you to kind of live a kind of a lifestyle compared to other people who are not really in that one of Pisces. So do you think like there's some correlation with that and you being such a dedicated yogi?
Well, it may sound easy because I've been in that process basically since I was a child. But it really started to take shape 37 years ago when I discovered yoga. Then slowly but certainly the dots started to connect. I found something that really resonated with me. And if you would have come to my class 15 years ago or 20 years ago, the story I would tell would be much different. The story evolved. And if you take the next course, you will see that the story is again different. In details, but over time, it evolves. Yeah, what I wanted to say is that I succeeded to turn lemons into lemonade. So, you know, when I was a child, I lamented my life. Why me? Why was I born here? Why all this misery? As a child, you have no vision yet, you have no oversight yet. So all you can see is happiness and unhappiness, joy and sadness. So now I realize that the higher powers of the universe have a way of steering you in a certain direction. And unfortunately, they do that with misery. Because we don't listen to positive messages, we listen to pain, unfortunately. But that is, so once you understand that, you don't look at the misery negative anymore. Even I developed a gratitude towards my past suffering, and I see that it was my ego that made me suffer. If only I understood at that time. It could have saved me a lot of misery more, but that's just necessary. And that's the message also that I try to teach in my classes, is that misery has a positive function. Misery is teaching us something about ourselves, about our unknown abilities, but it also teaches us something about mistakes we inevitably make. Not deliberately, but just in our ignorance we make mistakes. Not knowingly, we make mistakes. And suffering that ensues, if we reflect on what happens, and that is of course something that yoga, a quality that yoga brings us, is that we start to reflect naturally. We start seeing patterns and the law of cause and effect at work in a natural way. We we start drawing conclusions, learning, growing from, especially from the pain that we suffer from. So once you understand that, you do not see misery and pain anymore in a negative way. While in the past, some event that hurt you you can carry that pain with you for years. Now we live life being alert and having had experience. Next time when we are hit with misery, with pain, we quickly investigate. What's going on and why? What did I do? We do not blame other people or circumstances. We ask, why are we in those circumstances? How did I get here? Why did I get here? And you find that you have certain needs, or that you have certain attractions, and it's very interesting to really put the puzzle of yourself together in that way. And based on that, you develop the power to avoid future misery. A past misery has a positive function. So, you know the story about my two brothers. They never saw the light, literally. And there are many people, they need more reincarnations to come to the conclusion that there is another way. I hope it doesn't intimidate that I'm sitting here talking about these things and you think, oh my God, how am I going to approach this? You already started. And like with me, it's a process of a lifetime. It's a path that you will be on. You know, the crown chakra, the opening up of the crown chakra, where you start to see law of cause and effect, and where you start connecting dots. It's like a pan of which the lid has been lifted. Even if you stop practicing yoga, the lid never closes. The development of consciousness, even if you don't maintain it to high levels with your yoga practice, but that development never reverses. So you will forever be on this path, which means a dynamic path of growth and development, personal growth and development. And it's not easy. There are times that you question. I think I've told you in this class that I've come to a point that I thought, oh my God, was I so wrong about following my heart that I now ended up here being a total failure? But then I quickly dismissed those thoughts and I just organized myself and focused on just running daily life. And the dogs came in very handy in that sense. Usually people take a dog out of luxury because everything is stable and now I have time and room and, well, it would be nice to have a dog. For me, it's the opposite. They saved me. They think I saved them, but they saved me actually, kind of. I took them in normal people's eyes, I took them in the worst moment of my life. And you will also more and more do things against the odds, against what other people think is normal. Why? Because you don't think normal anymore. You follow your heart. And your heart will tell you. If you feel very strongly attracted to something, it's called blah blah resonance. I'm looking at Tenzin because usually Tenzin gives the answer. There is some kind of resonance that I forgot the proper term for this, but it's something that you can't ignore, can't deny. It's so strong, you must follow up on it. It's like falling in love. Falling in love with a person is so strong that it drives you mad. That can happen with a dog, it can happen with a job, it can happen with yoga or hapkido, or it can happen with... but follow up on that resonance, follow up on that attraction. Explore. For me, it was the only way to make sense, to give sense to my life. I was wondering, I was searching what to do, where to go, what. And I know that most people are. We cover it up with our daily life affairs, and of course, living in a wealthy society where it's possible to be financially relatively comfortable. When you feel a hole in your heart, you can just go to the cinema and spend 2-3 hours indulging in a nice movie with some snacks and the atmosphere, raga. Yeah? And if you can take a week or two off from work, you can buy a ticket and go to a nice place on a vacation. We kind of numb our heart's needs with consumption. With we have the luxury to just, we can spend some money here and there to find some distraction.
But that's only half of the story, right? I mean, I think since the 60s also activism has increased as well. People trying to correct what they see as unfair or unjust about society. Actually, especially in your country. Actually.
That is true, that is so true. But there is an evolution there too, because all those people that were on the barricades then are now in charge of government. They are the opposite of what they. The idealism of the young people changes into pragmatism. So those movements are very necessary to shake things up. It also leads to evolution of society as a whole, but those people often become the worst. You talk about the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, you have those people that were most idealistic, standing on the barricades against the royal family, against consumerism and what have you. All they care now about is their position, their power. They live in the most beautiful houses in the center of Amsterdam, where they buy up those canal houses. So that is it's dynamic. But actually, if you look at the chakras, that development is predictable, because it is in your 20s that the heart chakra is developing, and that is the time of idealism. That is the time of protesting. But after 7 years, you go a level higher, and you just naturally become more. You become more interested in establishing yourself in a material way, also, in terms of career and material way. That is natural. It's a natural development. No?
I wouldn't entirely agree, because I think that some of those people also get into things like they establish themselves by becoming human rights lawyers and things like that. They find a way to be pragmatic, but to still fight the good fight.
Yeah, there are some. But even the human rights lawyers, further down the road, they become the boss of the organization. And then it's not about idealism anymore, then it's about position, it's about... look what happened with Greenpeace and you know, they still care about environment and what have you, but all the politics have become just as ugly as national and international politics. The infighting and it's, I mean, I understand what you're saying. For me as a yogi, I'm an idealist too, still, but with a pragmatic foundation that didn't exist 25 years ago. 25 years ago, I didn't care at all about. I had a naive belief that everything in the future will fall into place. It actually did. So far, so good. Knock on wood. That is a recent development, but yeah. When you're young, you don't think about the future, so you can be idealistic. But in your 30s, you start to consider long-term perspective. And then you realize you have to set something down. It's a natural development. And the chakras show that it's actually going that way. Okay, I have helped all of you to open your own can of worms, and I'm very aware of that responsibility. It's your path in the end. You felt attracted to come here by an advertisement on Facebook or by hearing from a friend who is enthusiastic. But you must know that since we have been connected as yogis in the course, that doesn't end today with the ending of the course. You go about your life, you do it yourself. The world is your playground. You try to learn from daily experiences, especially when things get messy. But it can happen at some point that you get stuck. Of course, you try to work your way out. But if you don't see a way out anymore, drop me a line. Send me an email. Sometimes the solution is so simple that we can't see it. Sometimes in our experience, we feel that things have become too complicated, overwhelming. Well, with a little push, a little bit of rationalization, a little bit of an alternative approach, often it's the little input that you need to see a way out, where you got stuck. What I mean to say is that since that we are here together, today is not the end, we remain family, brothers and sisters. Warriors of the light, I should say. You are now commandos. No, actually I'm laughing, but you have no idea yet You have no idea yet, probably, of the characteristics that you develop as a result of yoga. We live in a world where yoga is being seen as a new agey and you know, only funky people go to yoga. The contrary is true. The fact that you subjected yourself here to my teachings shows that you're tough. You're watching the mirror. You see things that many people don't want to see, and you faced it. That is what makes you special forces. Not with a machine gun, but with a big heart. Okay? Then